Oh boy, hey, hi, hello there. Do you know what's worse than natto and carpal tunnel? Art block, yes indeed, and it's a constant battle that all creatives face, and yes, I know you watching this have experienced it at least once, do not lie. Okay, seriously, sorry for the wait, but I'm back. This woman has single-handedly cured my inability to put a line on paper, and I'm so excited to get into her lore with you guys. If you thought my previous installments weren't steampunk enough, then oh boy, we're getting our hands dirty with this one. So welcome back to my Hazbin Hotel Steampunk Redesign series, where I do a tarot reading on each character to help them find a place in this alternate universe. Today we are doing the wonderful girlfriend and guardian of Princess Charlie herself, Vaggie. Now, while it isn't essential that you watch my first 3 videos in the series to enjoy this one, I do reference a few pieces of lore from those in this video, so if that's important to you, feel free to go watch those before this one. Okay, with that out of the way, let's get into it. So for Vaggie's design, I really wanted to implement a little more practicality into her overall look. With my previous 3 designs, I hadn't really leaned much into brown coloration and gadgetry that the steampunk aesthetics are known for, so Vaggie was always going to be where I played around with it first. While Lucifer, Alistair, and Charlie exhibit more golds and frills that match their status, Vaggie holds more weight as a warrior and clearly isn't afraid to get her hands dirty. That isn't to say that she can't be pretty, and I want to emphasize that I love that she has a girly side to her. Which is why I struggled with her pose initially. I know that on the wiki for Hazbin, Vaggie is considered to be a good dancer, and because of this I wanted her relationship with her spear and wings to be one of grace and fluidity. She dances across the battlefield, and I wanted her introduction in this illustration to convey that. I actually forgot about her wings entirely until a little bit later, and I almost thought she looked better without them, but ultimately I think they enhanced her silhouette. For her main outfit, I took inspiration from military uniforms as well as a few modern looks to bring it together. I settled for a sleeveless turtleneck for the top because that is peak character design, as we know. A red sailor / safari shorts for the bottom. Her boots, gloves, and belt all feature brown leather, and her goggles also have a similarly colored strap. The goggles themselves feature one normal glass and another with several lenses, and an enchanted gear frame for her missing eye. In this illustration, I drew her with a prosthetic clockwork eye that is a gift from Lucifer, but in the beginning of the story, she wouldn't be actually using it and only take advantage of the sensory magic that her goggles provide. I think that the goggles would function more like a soul-seeking radar of sorts that appears like heat detection on her end rather than actual sight. Though by the end of the illustration, it's hard to tell due to the lighting, but I kept all of her purple colors in her hair and wings. I changed her hairstyle and opted for a very long swoop of a ponytail and bangs that frame her face rather than cover her missing eye. I also included a scar over the missing eye as a battle wound, since she went without care longer in this world after Lute's assault than in the canon timeline. I don't have anything too crazy to say about her spear other than I just had a lot of fun with it, and that's what came out. I really like that it looks similar to the Heaven Embassy somehow in a lot of ways in terms of small details. It wasn't intentional, but I wouldn't change a thing. Alright, so before the story section, I want to go over some more lore tidbits for the steampunk universe. I want to do a dedicated video for the actual overall world lore at some point, but for now I'm just gonna keep dropping little bits in each character video. Something introduced with Vaggie's story is the concept of clockwork built into the souls of heaven. These are pieces of clockwork that take any shape or form within the body of a soul that manifests in heaven, taking the place of something meant to be organic. This can be anything from clockwork wings to a portion of their lungs, or smaller. They function the same as the body part they took the place of, but are directly connected to the higher powers of heaven. Think of them as implanted trackers or neural implants, though every cell manifests with one. It's not something implanted manually. For example, Adam has 2 sets of gear machinations on either side of his head, and behind them is a pure white light that represents his soul. The part of Vaggie that was clockwork is a secret for now, but it is something that will be explored as she wrestles with her relationship with Lucifer's gift, which is the prosthetic clockwork eye. Alright, mini lore tidbit section out of the way, let's get right into the tarot reading. Card 1. The General's Point of View. The Sleeper, representing cause and effect and clarity. Vaggie lives to be Charlie's right hand. She devotes every waking hour to her safety and peace of mind, no matter the personal cost. In the night, she fights dreams that tease at her heartstrings and torment her soul. It wasn't always like this. There was a time when Vaggie was a warrior of the skies with only a mission of pure righteousness. Not a shred of doubt would have been found there, and had any of her now dear friends met her back then, well, they'd surely be double dead by now. All of the residents of Hazbin Hotel trust her now, even with the knowledge of her heavenly origins. Being an ex-warrior of heaven does come with its perks, after all. The only one who holds any real type of true animosity towards her at this point seems to be Alistair, and even he keeps his complaints layered in false flattery. There is something that is keeping her from being truly at ease, however, preventing her from enjoying the fruits of hard-earned friendship. It's something she did to herself, and she wholeheartedly is aware of the fact. Shamefully, as far as she's concerned, she had completely forgotten about this slip-up of hers until Lucifer offered her a simple gift. You see, shortly after the extermination and things quieted down, the King of Hell had gifted her a clockwork eye. It was beautiful, and its inner workings nearly silent in their labor and flawless by design. It functioned as a sort of magnifying glass, one that could reach the truth of all things, he'd told her. Vaggie didn't know what he meant by that, because she had yet to test out the prosthetic. It wasn't so much that having a prosthetic eye in the place of her missing one was a fear of hers, but that it reminded her of the last tie she had with heaven. Or rather, the tie it had on her. See, every soul in heaven manifests with a piece of clockwork somewhere within their organic body. It looks like an implant from an outsider's perspective, but it is a true, essential part of their soul's physical manifestation. All those born with it, including all of the heaven-born angels of all rank, don't pay it any mind. Vaggie, however, has the unfortunate hindrance of something called insider's knowledge. She wasn't supposed to be exposed to it by any means, but being a part of Adam's entourage left her at the mercy of his boastful whims, which included the slip of a classified snippet of information, or 100. Bottom line is, Adam had no issue telling her and his lieutenant, Lute, that the gears within their body were tied to him as their superior, and their will would always be his to fiddle with if he so wished. Could she take his words for fact? She couldn't say. All she knew was that Adam was no longer her superior, locked in their basement as he was. So, if he was telling the truth, who now had access to that bit of her born in heaven? And what were the chances that she was putting them all in grave danger just by remaining in the hotel? Card 2. Call to Adventure. The Acolyte, representing new projects and learning. As the days drift by in the aftermath of the extermination and subsequent battle for the princess's domain, Vaggie allows herself to fall into a rare state of complacency. Nothing is apparently wrong, and there is a breadth of space between heaven and hell in their constant quarrels. Moreover, Lucifer is now staying with them, even if she hasn't decided whether or not his presence gives them better or worse odds against heaven. It isn't until a month goes by after they greet their prisoner for the first time since his capture that Vaggie senses something wrong. Adam is chained in their basement, powerless and all bark and no bite. The problem isn't the threat he poses, but the mark he'd left long ago. Charlie hasn't forgiven him, and never will, which Vaggie knows is probably weighing on the forthright girl like a cannonball in the ocean. The princess exhibited something she never had before in Vaggie's presence while in Adam's. Silent rage. Charlie had instructed her and Lucifer not to speak to Adam, to let her handle it because this was something she needed to do. Ultimately, however, over the sounds of Adam's slurs and curses, nothing could be heard from the daughter of Hell. Rather, it was felt. The air had changed and the lights had dimmed. Her very posture seemed to alter from one of hopeful cooperation to rigid hard-headedness. Ever since that day, Charlie hasn't been the same. When Vaggie asks if she's alright, Charlie dismisses her with a simple excuse. I just need some time to think. Which, sure, that's reasonable. The issue is that, in Vaggie's experience, Charlie's time to think usually resulted in a public event in the lobby in which every resident fell victim to her incoherent ramblings and spreads of sticky notes and notebook paper all over the walls and floors. Charlie just didn't do solitary contemplation. She became completely at a loss when Charlie turned to Alistair, of all people, for advice. That's when she realized she needed to make a change, and fast. So she reluctantly turns to Lucifer. Vaggie was skeptical about the guy when he first introduced himself before the extermination, and honestly hadn't considered her own relationship with him past respect for his authority and position as her girlfriend's father. The more time Lucifer spent at the hotel, the more Vaggie's respect dove into trepidation. The man's life was no more put together than his daughter's, and twice as chaotic. Honestly, she didn't know how to approach him, knowing she'd likely have to steer the conversation. But she needed advice, and she loved Charlie more than anything, so she was willing to take one for the team. And true to her worries, Lucifer was nearly 3 times as distressed about his daughter's confidence in Alistair than Vaggie was, and so the two began to form an unlikely camaraderie. It doesn't hurt that Lucifer can help her out with the parts of her that hail from heaven either, because God knows she has no one else to seek help from in that department. Or maybe he doesn't know. Card 3. A Guardian's Fate. At some point, it all became too big. Her, an angel who voluntarily lives in hell as the guardian and girlfriend of the princess of hell, and apprentice of the devil himself, can only absorb so much cosmic existentialism. Between both Lucifer and Charlie, Vaggie comes to realize how utterly small her existence is in comparison, yet how important she seems to be in their world. The more she learns from Lucifer, the more competent she feels in her abilities, and confident in her understanding of how the universe works around them. At the same time, she feels both stuck between being the right person to mend and bring together this celestial father and daughter, and fundamentally ill-equipped to do so. That isn't to say that Vaggie can't handle it emotionally. Absolutely not. She loves them both for who they are and wants them to see how simply they can put themselves back on the right track. They are blind to obvious answers she knows she can give them in a way they'll understand. What she can't handle is the high probability that she's not strong enough in every aspect aside from her will to keep up the pace. The Morningstar family is ancient and all-powerful, and Lucifer himself even more so. No matter what she does to set them right, there'll always be someone in heaven that can get rid of her with less than a thought if they so much as don't like how her hair sits. It's terrifying, knowing that she might not be able to save her family now that she's found it. Yet, at the end of all this, what she's always been here for is Charlie, and maybe that's where she should focus for now. Cosmic nonsense can wait, existential dread will always be around, but Charlie has done something she can't take back. Her fun-loving, optimistic, moral compass of a girlfriend has betrayed all those closest to her, and is lost in the depths. Vaggie knows deep down that she's resentful Charlie didn't confide in her about the struggles that led her down this path, but that isn't what's important. Charlie forgave her for hiding her identity as a warrior of heaven, so the least Vaggie could do is offer the same courtesy. In fact, if Charlie of all people was spiraling away from the light, then it was essential now more than ever that she offer guidance and support rather than admonishment and biting words. She could offer that much, and maybe, just for now, that would be enough. So, Vaggie's character ended up opening a lot more opportunities to expand the actual world of steampunk than I thought. It got me thinking whether or not Lucifer had heaven-born clockwork in him or not, the whole situation surrounding Sir Pentious and how he would manifest in heaven, and if his soul would follow the same rules or not. Lucifer might be a quicker mystery for me to solve than Pentious, but I am really excited to delve into the heaven side of the story. So, for the story, having Vaggie be an apprentice character to Lucifer was a pretty last-minute decision for me. I think that their dynamic would be a ton of fun to explore, especially with both of them being out of a companion in Charlie and Alistair. Vaggie won't be an apprentice in the traditional sense, but more in a spiritual sense. Does that make sense? I want her to come to understand Lucifer as a person through his depictions of heaven versus the heaven she knows, as well as have her piece together the more tangled parts of him that he leaks unknowingly. And when it comes to Lucifer's more dire secrets, Alistair will still be hotter on his trail just because of the nature of his role in the story, but Vaggie's perspective will add a little more clarity in the long run. I mentioned in her story that she's worried about a piece of her being connected to the will of heaven and whose will it might be. I haven't decided this yet. There are a few things I need to consider first, like whether the mortal souls are tied to actual angels or simply a higher being such as a god figure. I need to decide exactly how much control this connection has over mortal souls as well. This will end up playing heavily into Adam's story, considering he definitely has heavenly clockwork in his body, on his head no less. And, you know, I want to talk about Adam for a second. What do you guys like to see from Adam in fan creations like this? Do you prefer the just one-note cartoon villain stuff, or do you like it when people give him a heaven messed with his mind and he's suppressing something thing I've been seeing going around? I would enjoy trying to turn Adam into an unlikely ally in the story, especially when it comes to Lucifer and Vaggie. Would you be interested in seeing that? Let me know what you wanted to see from Adam in general before he got axed in the series too. I'm genuinely curious to see what people wanted out of him. He had quite a bit of potential. Also, side note, as we get closer to the end of the illustration footage, I wanted to point out that there are a few gaps in the recording because at some point I got on a call with my cousin and forgot to record while we slaved away at figuring out how to make Vaggie's wings look a little bit better. That aside, I plan to make a short special for this, but I just wanted to say thank you so much for 100 subscribers. Your support means the world to me and encourages me to continue making content like this. I really wasn't sure if people would be interested in this video format, but I really wanted to test out mixing all of my interests together into just one video series and seeing what happens, and I'm thrilled that there are people out there who are enjoying it as much as I do. A special mini animatic is planned to thank you guys, and if you like Epic the musical and Hazbin mayhaps mixed together, then you'll like this even more. I'm curious though, would anybody be interested in these illustrations as physical prints? I had some ideas about opening a Ko-Fi shop with this series as a debut listing, but I wanted to gauge interest first. Let me know in the comments. Speaking of extra Steampunk AU content, I am nearly finished with the first chapter of the actual AU fanfic. It's taking me a little while because I was sick for a little bit and then I started getting ready to move, which I'm still doing, but I'm determined to move this along, so I will announce the first chapter when I'm finished with it. If you're interested in seeing more art like this in the video or would like to see updates on the story, as well as some of my original work, all of my socials will be listed in the description below. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching, and here is the final result. Vaggie the General.